Thank you for tuning into History with Chemistry. This is part 2 to the historical racism in the state of New York, because racism was not confined to the South. On the end of part 1, I was talking about Buffalo, New York, and how Buffalo saw an influx of African American sharecroppers from the South just seeking better jobs and better living conditions. Now, before they came up there, Buffalo was a primarily white town. They had the infrastructure and the financial stability to actually help the black sharecroppers that came in mass, but they decided to leave. I mentioned white flight, and I go into what white flight is and to briefly go into it on this side. It's basically when white people leave, but they don't just up and move and take their belongings. They up and move and encourage others to move and shut down businesses, shut down banks, shut down schools, everything that you would need to have a sustainable community, leaving the new black citizens there with basically nothing. And the people that did stay were there simply to exploit those black people. So I left off also talking about redlining. Redlining is, say you have a map of Buffalo. This map of Buffalo can have a bunch of different areas, a bunch of different neighborhoods. What banks and realtors and different companies would do that are white owned, they would put red lines and borders around the predominantly black areas, basically saying don't give these people loans, don't sell houses to these people, don't help these people at all. And that was extremely, extremely dangerous, and it was effective when it comes to confining black people into this poverty-stricken area. In these poverty-stricken areas, I did mention East Buffalo because East Buffalo is also one of the more widely known areas that was part of that redlining agenda back in the day. And East Buffalo is still poverty-stricken because of this redlining that took place. Not to say that it only happened in East Buffalo. Any black neighborhood in Buffalo got that red line. It was almost like a bad stamp to have. You didn't want that red line around your neighborhood. The red line areas and neighborhoods also gave the government the okay to demolish whatever was there for whatever needs they wanted. And this actually goes into the 33 Expressway that is still there today. It's commonly known as the Kensington Expressway. Now, before there was Kensington Expressway, there was a black neighborhood there. And just like a lot of black history when it comes to the demolition of black communities, they were thriving. I wouldn't necessarily say thriving, but they had a sense of community, right? And for the most part, they were doing well on their own with the little bit that they had. But the government decided, okay, this would be a great place to completely uproot everyone that's here and put an expressway that sees some 60,000 people every single day. With the nearest house, that means neighborhood, being only a few hundred feet from the freeway or expressway. This is actually dangerous, and it still causes issues today because can you think about the amount of noise, the amount of pollution, the amount of traffic that goes through these black neighborhoods where black children play in the streets, all of these there's a lot of different components that came with this expressway, not to mention the fact that they completely displaced hundreds of black people just to put this freeway there. Another way that racism was used in Buffalo was there was an obscene amount of abortion propaganda, almost like flyers posted everywhere. There were a number of abortion clinics in the black neighborhoods, and specifically in these black neighborhoods, which we can't deny that abortion clinics were literally created in black neighborhoods to keep the black population down. And these abortion clinics were so effective that there was a Klansman in Louisiana named David Duke who decided to invest in a lot of abortion clinics that he went on paper saying he was doing that to diminish the amount of black people that would ultimately become citizens in America. So this is not speculation. This is a fact that abortion clinics in black neighborhoods were pushed to keep black people down in numbers and also economically. In the midst of knocking all these beautiful things down and putting up a bunch of bullshit that wasn't needed, they knocked down and demolished so many different beautiful parkways, so many beautiful parks and different areas that black people could convene. Because, I mean, what else are they supposed to do? You're not giving them anything else, not giving them enough money to travel. The least they could do was go to this free park. So they were knocking down hundreds of free small parks and parkways that black people were known to convene at just because. Buffalo was considered the sixth most segregated city in America. It's so well known that Buffalo is so segregated that the grocery store shooter that happened a few years ago, the guy that drove some 200 miles just to shoot black people in a grocery store, he knew exactly what neighborhood to go to. He didn't even live in Buffalo. He did not even live in Buffalo. It's so well known exactly how segregated this area is. And it's just not talked about because it's not Alabama. But that's enough about Buffalo. Let's talk about Central Park. Or we can call it Seneca Village, because that's what it was before they knocked down this beautiful, beautiful, thriving black community built by black people for black people, and allowed other people, Irish, whomever, into the community just to be away from the fucking obscenity of racism in the city, and also just to give them some sort of peace. Seneca Village was started by a black man named Andrew Williams. Mr. Williams decided to save up all of his money to buy this patch of land of a couple acres, and he decided to sell it in lots to other black people. To people like Mary and William McCoon, Isaac and Matilda Brown, and almost 100 other black families who decided to settle on their land. This was land that was rightfully acquired and they rightfully owned. Seneca Village had grocery stores, it had barber shops, it had a school, it had 3 churches. 2 of them were black, all black, and one of them was kind of like a mixed congregation. When they demolished Seneca Village under eminent domain, which was also created to take land from black people, by the way, the only thing that they rebuilt in honor of Seneca Village was the church with a mixed congregation. If that doesn't tell you anything. And if you don't know about Seneca Village, I'll be making a video on this page to go into deeper detail about Seneca Village. It was a beautiful village built by black people for black people, and they allowed Irish people who also were racist toward black people at that time into their neighborhood as long as they were respectful. They allowed the respectful Irish people into Seneca Village. But regardless, these black people were so open. They were more open and more giving than their own city officials, because they went and demolished all of their hard work and paid them pennies for their land in the name of eminent domain, just to create what we have today as Central Park. This is going to be the end of part 2, the end of the New York section. This is not the end of the racism in New York. New York still sees racism to this day, and there's hundreds of thousands of accounts and events that has happened since the inception of this city that is racially charged. I urge you to do your own research. This is only a little bit of research that I've done. Also, click the link in the link tree below in the description. Give me a follow on my other socials. In the meantime, thank you for watching.